And now for the final game that I'm going to cover in the Ancient World series, until and unless Thunderbolt or some other game in the series comes out. And that'll show you, yes, I will buy them. Whatever gripes I have about it, I do like it enough that I will, in case you want to preview on the review. Alright, so this one is the Mercenary War at the end of the First Punic War. Who is it? Hannibal Gisco? No, just Gisco. Sends all the mercenaries out of Sicily, and they're stationed down here on the Numidian border. And Carthage just doesn't pay them, and it kind of tries to ignore them. And they basically revolt. Here we have Hanno the Great, even though the game doesn't seem to be certain that that's who we have in charge. The designer doesn't seem certain about that. But it's okay, he's not that great. In charge of the forces of Carthage. And eventually, and this kind of surprised me because I didn't realize this was happening this early. Hannibal, I'm sorry, who is it? Totally brave. Yeah, Hannibal Barca. This is the Hannibal's father, I think. Is off in Spain. Now, apparently, that's probably forming the basis, the core of the Spanish holdings that are really grabbed during the interregnum between the First and Second Punic Wars. The basis of which Carthage had a big enough army to actually threaten Rome again. Anyway, I didn't think that was... I thought that the foundation of the Spanish actually all started post the First Punic War. There may be a small colony. I have to look that kind of stuff up to understand it again. Okay. So this is a pretty simple one in terms of victory. The mercenaries, and there's 3 leaders, will win if they take Carthage. Or if they can hold any city at the end of the game, and it's not a very long game, in Carthage or Tripolitania. Their Numidian doesn't count. Any city, even a tiny little one. But, well, Carthage wants to survive and destroy them. They get an automatic victory if they kill the 3 leaders, which basically would mean that the rebellion couldn't do anything anymore in game terms. Whether another leader would arise or whatever, who knows. We're going to have some reinforcements coming in, including, like we said, Hannibal Barca, and then the Numidians are going to come in with their elite cav as well. First turn, everybody's got 1 shit. The mercenaries get to pick 1 to activate. Their army is a loose, normal army, which means they can keep them all stacked together, and they have no overall commander. They can, pick whoever they want to lead that whole army and get lots of activations on that army, or they could split it up if they wish. Both options are valid choices at various times. If you need force, and they're not that big, having lots of activity is helpful, but a couple of small units is also very useful. For the Carthaginians, most of the Carthaginian rules are out of play. We're going to keep track of the family and power, but that just has to do with who the overall commander is going to be. These are our reinforcement armies. This is all we have to begin with. We get the efficiencies up here. They follow pretty much the normal efficiency rule here, which is if the army's still on the board, it goes up 1 at the beginning or end of a turn. Mercenaries are going to get reinforcements each time they take a city. For the first time they take it, they get a die roll worth of Libyan infantry strength points. And if they roll a 4 or higher, they get 1 Libyan cav among them. And this will give them a continuation roll with a -2 to it, which is good for them. The Carthaginians get their reinforcements. Now, there's no political climate in this game. However, each turn you're going to roll to see who's in power, and that'll determine who the overall commander is. That's starting with the third game turn when Barca comes in, Hannibal Barca. Not Barca from Freedom in the Galaxy. The Carthaginian army, I explained that. Carthaginian command, the commanders are in command of their own armies. The overall commander can subsume the other commander, and they can also coordinate. This is kind of disturbing writing, actually. It says the 3 commanders can only conduct operations interception and avoidance with the units of their own army. They may coordinate, okay, great. However, the 2 Carthaginians can include Narvis and his Numidians. I always do that. And the Carthaginian overall commander can include the other Carthaginian commander and his army as part of a force count. What? It seems completely contradictory. Overall commander doesn't make a lot of sense to assign if you're not going to allow them to work together, though. So, unless there's no overall commander option. Carthage is going to have an intrinsic defense of 8. The other cities are 3 and 1. Siege capacities aren't going to change. It's -2 for Carthage, -3 for the mercenaries. I think the idea there is the lack of wood in this area is going to make it difficult to do siege, proper siege engines. Strange, though, that there aren't rules for that in the big scenario to restrict the wood. And maybe there were, and I just forgot about them. And we went over victory conditions. And this is not a long scenario. It only goes to here. There aren't a lot of pieces. Tiny map. This is supposedly the perfect introductory scenario, but since it is the latest in date, and I was familiar enough with the system, I didn't do this first. And to tell you the truth, it has nothing, it doesn't really give you much if you've played Rise of the Roman Republic. If you haven't played any of the series, this is probably the best introduction to it at all, because you want the Carthage rules, or maybe the later edition living rules if you're willing to pay to build your own rule books, because GMT didn't bother, to fully develop this game and get you something reasonable into your hands to begin with. You'll notice I've gone back to using the normal Carthaginian army display. The reason for that is I'm not going to see a lot of movement. There aren't any manpower rules for the Carthaginians. They're not going to be dealing with all that crap. In fact, I can give myself some more space this way. And I'm hoping to get this done by today and be able to give a review for the 2 games together. Almost done with the chips, but I've got a battle. The mercenaries picked, I don't know who, Matho, who marched into here. Now, terrain here is very painful. You can see 4 and 3, it's 7 to get into, to march through Numidia and Carthage. These roads don't exist in this, or any scenario in this game. However, they do provide a reduction of penalties. If you walk through this rough terrain without the roads, you end up taking additional attrition factors added to it. So there was a little bit of attrition cost to going here. Matho only took a small force himself. I split into 2 forces of rebel mercenaries, and was planning on trying to take 2 cities. I didn't get any. I didn't get any continuations, which kind of sucks. Hanno came marching down here, and Matho ended up successfully not only intercepting, but ambushing Hanno. And now we're going to fight that battle out and see what happens. I was unable to coordinate these guys into play. There would have been no chance of a double envelopment. That can only happen if the opponent intercepts you. Hanno only took one loss as well, marching through Carthage. He basically paid 3 + 1 for this stream or river that he had to cross. I'll come back after the battle because this is going to be a big one. A big surprise. I of course lied there. I am back. That's all I lied about. After figuring out most of the odds, including the ambush, the attack's going to be at -2 in Carthage's favor here. Carthage thinks they can improve this. They've got elephants with them, so I'm going to start rolling on the elephant table. I haven't done this a lot, so I want to do some of it here. We'll see what happens. The first one kills an elephant. That wasn't very good. Second one, I'm basically looking for another +1. Eliminates an enemy cav. There aren't any. Third one. Fourth one. Kills an enemy infantry. That's a problem because I kind of have to pay attention. This is where tracks would be helpful. I kind of have to pay attention because that could actually affect the odds. That was fifth one. Sixth one. No effect to the cav. Seventh. Eighth. Another elephant dies. I'm down to 8 of these. Keep that there for now. Ninth, I think. Another elephant dies. And out of the 10th. Okay, now I get my bonus on here, which is going to make it a -3. And that's really what I was looking for. I'm down to 7 elephants. I can find a 7 in here. I got a couple of 3s. My 7's over there. Should have been using the tracks. They are easier, even in a small scenario like this. Well, let's see what the results are going to be. We won't have everything figured out. It was 9 into 35. That keeps a 1 to 4, which is what I had before. And okay. Ah, I got to remember another a +1 to this, so it's only -2. That gives me a die roll of 1, which is going to be 15% losses for the mercenaries, 5% for Carthage. Now, if we take a quick look, 15 is going to be 2 losses. 5% is probably going to be 2 losses. We're probably going to see about equal losses here. However, the mercenaries are going to be defeated in the battle. Not that that means much, except to give them this disorganized instead of just a disruption. Took a flight back to here just because I can lay that under siege without doing as many activities. Now, end of turn, we get the reorganization factors here. You can see I've laid siege with the final chit. There are no siege attrition markers in the game yet, but all these additional markers go into the cup. There's not a lot in the game in terms of a lot of the, you're not going to see troops coming in or anything. These guys do go up to a 0 though. Not for the battle, just for time passing. And that is the first turn. We'll be through this pretty quickly, I believe. It really is just a way to look at the core mechanisms of the movement in combat. It's not really an interesting scenario, nor is it particularly designed to be one. Since this is kind of the introductory scenario, I decided, hey, what the hell, I'll throw some more detail in than I normally do. Like, I kind of should have gone through the whole battle, right? But here, I just drew a siege attrition. I've got 5, 10, 13 dudes here. I am within range of a friendly city, so I get the -3 to my die roll. Which gets me a 3. I'm going to lose a dude. Actually, I want to lose Gauls because Gauls are annoying. They're uncontrollable. For the for the Carthaginians, they're on the 1 table. There's no real modifiers here. I get a 4 on the 1. That's a 1 asterisk. I would lose a strength point, but I only have one in there, so I don't much have to worry about that. And that's the effect of the attrition. We'll keep going. Okay, the next pick is Hanno the Great. This isn't good. I mean, there's just no hope for these mercenaries, I'll tell you. But it's not good because Hanno wants to attack this as his first action. No, I'll choose my leader to be this guy. He's going to try to withdraw from Hanno. And I think that's going to be a success. He's essentially allowed to retreat a few spaces away, breaking his siege. I'm going to go here. I have to make an attrition roll for that. Well, not roll, but I have to account for attrition. I've got 9, 10, 11, 12. I've just moved through a 3 attrition, which is the cost of the area. Doesn't matter how many hexes I went, and I'm okay. Now Hanno makes a continuation roll, and he fails his continuation. Had he succeeded, he could have chosen to push on and continue making attacks against people. Instead, I'm going to draw the next chit. And we're going to see Spendius. Spendius is the guy here. See, Hanno's got another chit in there, but I'm going to try sieging because I may get lucky and take something. I want to take more cities so that I have bonuses on the siege attrition, but I got real problems moving forward here. Hard to starve a city out. The other 2 siege attrition markers went by, and we had no change, no losses on either side. Now I've got Enteritis in play. And what he'd like to do, I think, is assault the city. It's not an optimal situation, but I need to take cities to improve my strength. So I have 2, 4, 9, 10, 11, 12. I may have miscounted elsewhere. To 1. That's enough to actually do an involuntary surrender check. I could have done that earlier. I just have to roll greater than a 1. I should have done that instead of a siege. The city surrenders. I do have a problem though. As I go into the city, I've got some Gauls. And I need to first check to see what's up with them. If I can control them, which I can, they stay with my army. Otherwise, they go home with their loot. Now, according to this scenario, and this is not in any of the other stuff, I'm going to be rolling my reinforcements. I get a die roll number of Libyan infantry, and I get a 7, so I get one of those as a Libyan cav. So I get this, and say 6 more infantry. And I'm going to use lots of counters because it's easier to make change, as long as I can see them all right away. And we keep drawing. The other thing, I just pulled Matho's second chit. He's going to be able to assault this city. I'll do that. He's got 6 strength points to 1. That's going to mean I just need to roll above 1 or higher. If I look through these markings, I may be disrupted. That's going to subtract from my chances. That's -2 to my die roll. But I have a better battle leading, so that's just -1 total. And basically I need a 2 or better. And I break my way in. However, I have to worry about a successful assault. I get an even die roll, so I lose 10% of my force. That goes here. I'm going to make a leader loss check. I'm okay. So I've just taken another city. And dropped some pieces around in stupid ways. Let's find this. And I get, again, a die roll worth of Libyans. I get 9, so I've got a much larger force there now. I've got to leave garrisons behind of a strength point in each place, but that's not that big a deal. except the troop strength is a big deal. I'm going to probably be facing Hanno, trying to siege one of these cities I'm in now. As Hanno moves into the big city here, Thugga, I'm going to leave a Gaul behind, just so I don't have to walk back in. I get an automatic interception because he's coming into a city space, and we're going to have a fight here. Now, no chance of an ambush because I was in a city. Mainly, this is my way to prevent from being sieged. So I cannot attempt to coordinate. I'd have to be within 3 hexes of the other staff to coordinate. Let's go through the whole battle procedure here. First thing we do, it's in the Rise of the Roman Republic, and it's essentially the same. My first scenario of that, I certainly covered it, but I figure I'll do this. We got level C leaders in both cases. We'll roll them out here. Blue is for Carthage. He gets a 5. That means he's going to have a 5 rating. A 2 means a 4 rating. So Carthage is going to be providing a -1 benefit. The next thing is going to be subordinate leaders. There are none. They'd have little numbers next to these. You'd see that definitely in the Rise of Roman Republic scenario. The combat ratio. I count the odds. 14, 22, 27, 37. These don't count. Elephants aren't added in a normal battle. 5, 6, in any battle. 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 is 17, 18 for the attacker. 18 goes into 37. Unfortunately, it's worse than 1 to 2. It's 1 to 3. That's 3 more in favor of Carthage. This is not good. Cav superiority. Carthage has 10 cav. I have 1. They have a 9-point cav superiority. This was shitty to put this on the back here, but that means I'm going to get a 3-point die roll modifier. The reason, there's 2 different charts here. One's for flat terrain, and one's for, I'm sorry, it's a 1-point modifier. I screwed that up. One's for flat terrain with non-Romans. One's for rough terrain with non-Romans or any Romans in, well, Romans in flat terrain. So I get a 1 point more in my favor. I don't have any elites on either side. There's no after battle status. If these counters were flipped and disrupted or whatever, they would cause a penalty. I can play with elephants. Let's do that. Elephants are fun. Okay, I only have 7 elephants now. I don't have to roll them all. I can stop when I get my +1 that I want. 1, I kill his cav. 2, I lose an elephant. 3, I kill a cav, there aren't any more. 4, I lose an elephant. I'm down to 5 elephants total. 5, I lose another elephant. 6, I lose another elephant. And 7, I lose a cav and an elephant. So I'm going to be down to 2 elephants and my cav drops. I might have to refigure my odds here. That might have been a reason not to do this, not to throw the elephants in. If the odds were going to drop lower, I should have been more careful. So instead of 37, I'm actually at 36. But I did casualties here as well. He's at 7, 8, 14, 17, 18. Took the wrong cav. I'm at 17. So nothing's changing there. I didn't get my +1 or -1 or whatever I wanted there. Nothing affects here except command. The efficiency is at 0. So we are at -5 because that's 5 in favor of Carthage and we're the ones attacking with the rebels. And we're going to take a 25% loss to a 15% loss. Well, that's going to disrupt me and I'm not big enough for this to be a major battle, so it's not going to be anything more than a disorganization, actually. Disruption happens to the Carthaginians. I'll figure out the numbers of casualties. Chances are the Carthaginians are going to suffer about the same, though, just because the army sizes are so different. I think Carthage actually took more losses total. However, the mercenaries have to retreat, and I'm retreating them in extra space, which loses them an extra unit. I'm not worrying about the types of units. It is almost unimportant throughout most of the game. In this one, the different types of units have absolutely no reasons that you have to consider them differently. So I'm just treating them as exactly the same, except where they're elites or something concerned, then I'll worry about that percentage differential. One thing I do have to worry about, though, is the cav superiority. We have 8 extra cav after the battle on this. That's going to give me a 1. That means I roll a die. Times 1 is the percentage loss. So we're going to take 9% of the enemy's force after the battle, including the withdrawal penalty, but whatever. 11. That's going to be about 1 strength point, so I'll take another loss there. And I got one more chit left. Who is it? It is Spendius, who I think is here, and he's going to throw that city under siege. And that is the end of our second turn. At the beginning of the third turn, we have to drop our reinforcements off, the Numidians. Now, their value is a little weird. Their efficiency can never change. And this should go up to a 1. Because we were not made useless. That's the only thing that could get us in our way. He has to show up in a Numidian city that's not occupied by the mercenaries. He'll show up here. Put this here to indicate he's in the city and who owns it. I don't really need the Carthaginian flag there until this shows up, which is Hannibal Barca's army. Now he's very active. That's going to be a problem. One of the things the rebels have been able to cope with is there's only so much this big army can do, and I only have 1 leader. But now with a second leader in place, it's going to be really rough. And I got one more thing I got to do at the beginning, which is to see who's in charge. This is the mercenary war, so we're going to get a +2 in die roll, but a -1 for the Magonids in power. So we're a +1 net. And we get a 3. The Magonids remain in power, so Hanno is still going to be the overall commander. It doesn't really make a damn bit of difference unless they coordinate their forces into a stack, and then Hanno ends up in command of whatever that force is. This cav force is not terribly useful except in conjunction with one of the other forces. It can't besiege anything, is really the problem. Okay, time for a break. Carthaginians the mercenaries getting a whole series of activities on their own, have managed to seize another town as well as recover their forces. Now, I was a little screwed up about something. I've been playing this wrong all along through Carthage. The involuntary surrender table, you can't do that once the city's under siege, but I'm usually just like, it's almost always successful against these little towns. So, it's half a dozen on one hand and the other half a dozen on the other, right? Anyway, let's try to maul all the little tropes that we can. From this point, if Carthage gets more draws, they'll be expanding into other cities. They've increased their forces in Army 1 again. And, their goal is just to try to rack up the score, get control of enough areas. There are only 3 turns, but, what's his name? Not Hannibal. What is... It's Hamilcar Barca, I think. Not Hannibal Barca. Looks like an HM there. And it should be Hamilcar. In the midst of kind of a running battle, Hamilcar engaged one of the units, he marched in to siege it, came out to attack. Coordination was successful, and they fought a battle. It was a major victory for Hamilcar. It actually went to the X level, which meant he used his guile, got it down to a 0, 30% losses to a star, then the Cav pursuit, bang bang, all kind of nastiness. Right now they're down here at Zama. Important battles, a couple of them were fought there. And he's got another fight, and he's fighting against these guys. Just say disrupted, but the useless marker is theirs, so they're going to have further penalties. They weren't outnumbered initially, but I think they are now, and with all the modifiers, it was somewhere around a +6. Well, it was a -6, I think. That's what I rolled with for Hamilcar. It actually 7 because I counted the troop quality, and it's going to get worse than that, we think. And there was another round of combat somewhere down here, and then this long and torturous pursuit, which has pretty much wrecked the mercenary army completely. You know, one of the questions might be, well, how many of these cities can they take out? Well, they can take them all out, as long as they have 20 strength points of infantry, which they do. Somebody like Hamilcar is very good at this, but he doesn't have much in the way of infantry. So he's kind of worn his troops down. I've started taking casualties from attrition on my Cav, just because I need infantry. I need infantry badly. The mercenaries lost one of their leaders, the worst of the lot, in that combat, in the second combat. Hanno the Great's managed to grab Thugga just by dominating it. The troops that were there, he let those Gauls return to join here rather than looting or sacking the city. And then he marched into here, and he has, and I should put little markers for areas the Carthaginians have taken back, simply because those will remind me that those are areas that I can't get victory. I can't get additional troops from in terms of the Libyans that I want to increase my force with. And then he laid siege to whatever the hell this is, Musti, and we should be seeing these cities fall pretty quickly to maybe not. I'm not sure I can do the involuntary surrender. No, I need to have more infantry than I do, and I can't transfer troops between the two armies, which means that I'm going to have to launch a regular siege. This is the only city I need to worry about, though. As long as I have this tied down under Hanno the Great, I'm in pretty good shape. The mercenaries can't really come out because they're still useless. Plus, I think they're out of chips. And as we play out the chit, siege attrition managed to give me this city. It was sacked so that I could kill the unit in it, but now it's not any longer. I'm going to push into turn, 238? And it's pretty much over. Hamilcar has moved here. I keep forgetting to roll for who's in charge. If I could get Hamilcar in charge, I might move him into here and try an assault with that. I'm kind of in the position where I need to try an assault at some point, because these guys can probably survive. They could get screwed by the siege attrition, but if it gets kind of, we're getting close to the end of the game here, and if they're still alive in that city, they win. So I'm basically looking at, once I take this, although it's completely unimportant to the victory conditions, I'm probably going to move into place and try an assault, whether or not Barca ends up in charge. And let us just roll the Carthaginian table. Should be a +1. Yeah, we're going to keep the Magonids in charge for the next turn. Carthage has their entire force here surrounding the mercenaries. I think the leadership is equivalent. I think it's C for Hanno the Great as well as with the mercenaries. We got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think a 10th point in there versus 19, 24. So we have like 2-to-1 odds. That's the best we can do, is basically a 50-50 chance. And if we fail, we're going to take the unsuccessful losses, which are much worse than the successful, perhaps. We could end up getting 10% times a die roll. So we could lose 90% of our force on an assault. On the other hand, we're taking about as much in terms of siege attrition. This isn't... At 10 strength points, they're losing like 1 each time. We're losing more than 1. We're losing probably more than 2 each time. So it's tough to decide what the hell to do, because it all is going to come down to, can this crack? And it may just come down to taking that 50-50 shot. Now I'm going to wait to do that until this turn to see if I get Hamilcar in charge, because he gives me an additional +1 for his leadership. Such luck, I'm going to be stuck with Hanno the Great attacking. Maybe I should have done it last turn and give myself 2 chances, but who knows. The one thing in my favor as the Carthaginians is my attack. I'm able to take my attrition on things like elephants and cav that aren't going to matter in this. This force is not going to be able to come out and fight at this point. So I should probably get these damn Numidians out of the way. They're just causing casualties. I've got plenty of cav and elephants to take as losses, but it doesn't really hurt either way. Cav counts double, and I think elephants do as well when you take them as losses. So that's fine. The question is how many attacks I want to get. I got a Hanno the Great. This is the only guy who can really do the assault, because I got crap for troops under Hamilcar if I send him on his own. I'm facing 6. I have... Actually, make it 7. There's a guy in there. I have 1924. Looks like 3 to 1. I'm going to go with it. So that gives me a 4 or higher. And I don't think anything else comes in play. So that's a pretty decent chance. And it's a failure. And my losses are 90%. And the defender is going to take 10%. Well, that may be the game right there. Let me figure out 90% losses. It can only be off the infantry. They're the only ones who assaulted. And I have to do leader loss checks. I could win that way. Check the 2 internal leaders. 7 on the second one. That's going to drive him out of there. Let's see if he's dead. Nope. So he's not dead, so that wouldn't matter anyway. And on mine I've got 3. We're fine there. So I'm going to take the losses and see if there's anything that can save it, but I really doubt it here. I think it can come close. In this case, a roll of 9 knocked 5 of the remaining places off. I could get lucky on the last siege attrition and take it. Or, assault-wise, I've still got 2 troops left. I can make an assault with just Hamilcar on the 2 to 1 table. That gives me on a 4 or better. Not bad, actually. Indeed, that's the roll I get. The danger of this is I could end up losing the siege if I lose both units. I think it's a better chance than being able to wipe it out by siege attrition, though. I get a 0, that's a failure. I'm going to lose 50%, so I'm down to 1. I still got 1 more shot. And the enemy, well, he's going to lose 10%. He can't lose enough for it to matter. All right, pretty much the last shot for Hamilcar, but even if he fails, Hanno can demand and use his forces for this. So this is actually just a 1 to 1, which means I need a 7. This is sort of the last chance. I could wait for the siege attrition and hope, but we'll try this. And I should be a +1 here, and I get it. And that's the game. As you can see, not much of an interesting scenario. You know, a little chance to play around and learn some of the core mechanisms of the game. Though, if you've already played Rise of the Roman Republic, this probably doesn't serve much purpose at all. But it is kind of an interesting little, introduction to at least how the ground combat works. Doesn't tell you much about really the stuff that kind of is the most complex stuff in the game, but the ground movement in combat is sort of an innovative idea. So, you know, it might take you some time to wrap your head around it. I know I had some trouble with the maneuvering, etc., early on in Rise of the Roman Republic. And it took me a while to kind of get a feel for it. This could help speed that process up, I guess, in something that's not going to take you very long, and you can set it up again and again and try to figure out, okay, how do you do this movement? Is there a way to trick somebody into this? You know, not really anything, you know, in terms of a real tactics or strategy here, but in terms of can I leave someone behind? You know, can I escape an army that's pursuing me? Can I do this, that, and the other? Just a way to capture those base ideas of the game without risking anything that's going to take a long time. I'll send this up, and then I'll do a combined review of this and Rise of the Roman Republic shortly.